Hey everyone, Theo here. Today I'm reviewing the UPerfect UMax 24, which is the largest single panel portable display from the company. I have to mention single panel because the company actually sells double panel portable displays as well. The size is 24.5 inches, resolution is 2560 by 1440, and the refresh rate is 165 Hz. This is not a touch screen. It comes with a matte textured surface. This display supports HDMI and USB-C video connection, and it comes with a built-in kickstand. By the way, the stand is not included. Okay, disclaimer. This is a review unit provided by the company, and in this video I'll just present to you my findings so that you can decide whether this is worth the money. And the price of this display at the time of review is $439 US, which may or may not include free shipping depending on your location. As usual, bottom line up front, this display looks good and works well, and the build quality is quite solid. So this is a big display, and with the 1440p resolution, it means you can multitask on this very easily. You can have two windows open side by side and still get plenty of space to work with. And thanks to the 165 Hz refresh rate, all the animation from your OS is going to look really smooth. Visuals are quite sharp, but there will still be noticeable pixelation when working from one arm's distance away. I measured color support for 99% sRGB, 77% Adobe RGB, and a maximum brightness of 210 nits. Gaming on such a big display with 165 Hz refresh rate is very satisfying. Downsides. As mentioned earlier, there is noticeable pixelation, which to me is actually not really a big deal for a display at this price point. If this has 4K resolution, this is going to be more expensive. There are speakers, but the audio sounds hollow. And lastly, if you view the display from an angle, there is noticeable drop in brightness on the sides, but I do not see any color shift. Anyway, if you view the display straight on like this, you will get fantastic visual quality. So that's the bottom line. And now let's move on to the full review. Let's take a look at the items included in the box. This is how the packaging box looks. The handle is here, so I'm not sure if they have printed the graphics upside down by mistake. Well, they have this very thick foam inside to protect the display. In the box, there are two 1.2 meter long USB-C to USB-C video cable. This is a 1 meter long mini HDMI to full-size HDMI cable, and this is a 45 watt charger. The plug may vary depending on country and region, and this is a USB-C port. And lastly, the user manual. On this small table right now, we have the UPerfect UMax 24, and this is the UMax 22 that I'm still currently using. So you can see the size difference, and let me just have this keyboard without a number pad in front of the displays to give you a sense of scale. So the UMax 22 is big, but obviously the UMax 24 is even bigger. Now, between these two, if you want something more portable, I would actually recommend you go with the 22, unless you know for sure you want something bigger. If you look at the product page on their website, you can see these are the 4 big UMax series displays that the company is selling. There is UMax 21, 22, 23, 24, and out of these 4, the ones that I recommend would be 22 and 24 because they have 1440p resolution. UMax 21 and 23 only have 1080p resolution. The link to this product page is in the video description below, and if you scroll all the way down, you can find this comparison table with all the specifications. And the UMax 22 is actually $50 US lower compared to the UMax 24. And do note that there are 2 versions for the UMax 22. There is the one with touch screen with a glossy display, and there is the non-touch version, which is the one that I have here with the matte textured display. Design of these two displays is kind of similar. They are both very thin. This is just slightly thicker than this wooden pencil at the top. The bottom is a bit thicker, and they both come with kickstands. Now the UMax 22 is 1.63 kg, and the UMax 24 is 2.64 kg. So this is 1 kg heavier compared to the smaller one. So the smaller one is actually noticeably more portable. So if you have to bring the displays around often, consider the smaller one, which is actually still quite big. On the back, you can find a VESA mount. This is 7.5 by 7.5 centimeters. The back is matte textured, and this is made with metal, so the build quality is quite solid. There are actually two speakers at the bottom, which you cannot see, and they face down. So since the speakers are at the back of the display and they are facing down, the audio is not that loud and the audio sounds hollow. There are two USB-C video ports and one mini HDMI port on the left. So this display supports HDMI and USB-C video connection. Regardless of which you use, you will have to connect this display to additional power. The USB-C ports are interchangeable. On the right side, we have this 3.5mm audio jack, the buttons for the OSD, and this micro USB port for OTG. There are two rubber feet at the bottom of the display and three at the bottom of the kickstand. And this is made with metal, and the hinge is quite strong, quite stiff, so this is able to hold the display up at different angles. I would highly recommend you get a VESA stand or a tablet stand so that you can elevate the display to a more ergonomic height. And I'm using a tablet stand here. I have tested video connection with HDMI and USB-C and both work fine. So this is currently connected to my MacBook Pro using USB-C, and there is actually power pass-through. However, the MacBook or the laptop is just charging at 3 watts. So this is a beautiful display, and when it's on a stand, it looks just like a desktop monitor, except there are cables sticking out from the left side. The design is clean and simple. The bezels are quite thin at the top and by the side, slightly thicker at the bottom. And notice there is no UPerfect branding in front. There is no UPerfect branding anywhere on the back as well. That is a clear indication that this is a white label product, so I will not be surprised to find other companies selling the exact same design but under different brands. Let's see what you can adjust with the OSD manual. We have brightness, contrast, black equalizer, game mode, saturation, hue, sharpness, display, rotation. These are the specs for the display. Factory reset, HDR mode. This display does not support HDR because the maximum brightness is just 210 nits. Eye protection, 3D sound, FreeSync. You can choose auto input source or choose the input source manually. That's language, aspect ratio, and volume. Color temperature, RGB. Let's have a look at color temperature. Okay, so you can choose 6500. H position, V position, manual time transparency, and that's it. So the colors on this display look pretty good out of the box, but since I use dual display setups, I will have to color calibrate it. I measured maximum brightness of 210 nits. Calibration has completed, and I measured color support for 99% sRGB, 74% NTSC, 77% Adobe RGB, and 81% P3. So this is a 99% sRGB display, and the colors do look pretty good to me. And this level of color accuracy would be good for general purpose computing, gaming. If you're doing graphic design, photo or video editing, you may want to have even higher or better color accuracy, like 100% Adobe RGB, but those Adobe RGB displays are noticeably more expensive. So this is how the anti-glare looks. Let me just tilt the display to this angle. So anti-glare is not that aggressive, as in you can still sort of see what's on the screen through the diffuse reflection. And anti-glare is not too glaring, thankfully. As long as you are looking at the display straight on, this is the visual quality you can expect. And let's check out the viewing angles. So at extreme viewing angles, you can see the drop in brightness, which is actually quite noticeable. And let me just move this up slightly while it's heavy, because I want to tilt this, yeah. So if you tilt the display like this, you can see noticeable drop in brightness, but I don't see much color shift. So this means if you're doing graphic design work, you have to make sure that the display is at the correct angle, because any slight change in angle will affect the brightness. The resolution of this display is 2560 by 1440. So this 1440p resolution on a 24.5 inch display will have noticeable pixelation when working from one arm's distance away. This still looks pretty sharp to me, and I'm sure the company will release a 4K version sometime in the future. 1440p resolution seems to be the limit that we currently have now for a portable 24.5 inch display. Having such a big display is great for multitasking. You can have two windows open side by side and still get plenty of space to work with. There is even space at the bottom for the dock or the taskbar. And this is how big the display is when compared to A4 size paper. So this display can actually fit 2 pieces of A4 paper. So if you are working on a graphic design that is A3 in size, you can actually view that page at 100% size, the actual size. This display supports up to 165 Hz refresh rate. So all the animation from your OS is going to look really smooth. The gaming experience on such a big display, of course, is very satisfying, and it's running at 160 FPS, 165 FPS right now, but I'm just using 1080p resolution. So whether you can game at the maximum resolution, at the maximum frame rate, will depend on how powerful your computer is. Alright, to conclude, this display looks good and it works well, but the main selling point is this is portable. If you do not have to move your display from places to places often, I would actually recommend you buy a proper desktop monitor, because you can get more options. You can choose one with higher resolution, you can choose one with more ports, and you get a proper stand. Now, I have not used this display for that long, so I cannot tell you much about long-term durability. But for the UMax 22, which I have been using for more than half a year, it still works fine. It still works really well. The last thing I want to say is, if you guys have intention to buy this display, consider using the affiliate links that I have for you in the video description below to support my YouTube channel and the work that I do here. Thanks for watching. See you guys again. Bye.